Hey, what's going on, you guys? Thank you so much for tuning into this video. My name is Ryan, aka Arpit. Today I'm showing you guys my Rock-Locke. So it's a Pokemon Sword and Shield Nuzlocke challenge using only rock type Pokemon. So in case any of you are unfamiliar with the rules, typically with the Nuzlocke challenge, you have to nickname all of your Pokemon. If your Pokemon faints, they are considered dead, so you cannot revive them. For my challenge, instead of catching a Pokemon in each route, I just caught one of every rock type Pokemon that is available in the Pokemon Sword version of the game. So we weren't able to trade to evolve any of the Pokemon. So if you can only evolve them through trade, then they're kind of stuck as is. And that's pretty much it. So without further ado, here is my Pokemon Sword and Shield Rock-Locke challenge. So obviously neither of the starters are rock type, so I picked a random number, use a random number generator out of 3. We ended up with Sobble. We didn't give it a nickname because he wasn't going to stay with us for very long. Of course, we have to battle Hop. He has his Wooloo and a Scorbunny. We take those out with no problem. So now it's off to the Slumbering Weld, where we encounter Zacian. We can't do anything, we leave, and it's on to Route 1, where we don't catch anything, so we proceed to Sonia, where we get the Pokedex, and now it's on to Route 2. Route 2 is kind of Route 2 we are able to catch Choodle, which does evolve into Dreadnought, which is a rock-type Pokemon. So I figured this was closest to get to the rock type, so I decided we get to have the opportunity to catch him. After about 5 minutes, we find him, and we take him down in health with a couple pounds. And we go ahead and try and catch him. And we caught him. We name her Chewy, and they're added to the party. And of course, all the other trainers on this route we take out with no problem, and it's on to our second battle with Hop. He of course starts out with his Wooloo. We take him down no problem. Decides to send out Scorbunny. Not a wise choice. Take that out easily too. Ends it with his level 5 Rookidee, which we take out in 2 shots. Defeat him again. And now we go to the wild area. The wild area is where we actually get to catch our first real rock-type Pokemon. Of course, we get the Pokemon box link first, which allows us to release Sobble. Adios. Of course, you counter the Onix right away, but we're way too weak to be able to catch that thing, so that's definitely not going to be happening for a little bit. So it's off just a little bit further, where we are able to find our first rock-type Pokemon. A Dweeble. Dweeble? I can never remember. Now he gets pretty close to taking us out. So we make sure and heal up. We hit it one more time. I figured that was enough to try and catch it. And luckily it was. So we nickname her Spidey, and Spidey is added to the party. And because Chewy's technically not a rock type, I decided to release her as well. So Spidey's the only Pokemon in our party. Because of that, I wanted to make sure and train her up so that she was at a decent level before we continued. We go ahead and enter into the gym challenge. Go over to the Badoo Hotel, where we encounter Team Yell. Team Yell really doesn't stand a chance because all their Pokemon are Dark-type Pokemon. And of course, Spidey is also a Bug-type, which is super effective against Dark, so we take them all out very, very easily. And this is our first encounter with Marnie. We don't battle her, but we do battle Hop. As we We do battle hop as we go into the next route. Luckily, Spidey's strong enough to take out that Wooloo in 2 hits. He then decides to send out Scorbunny, which really doesn't have any moves that can do anything against us. So we take that sucker out in 2 hits. Next is the Rookity. Same story. Almost can take it down with 1. Hit it again, and it's fainted. And this is where we get to catch our second Pokemon, Roly-Coly. We hit Roly-Coly with the Smackdown. Luckily we get a crit, which takes it down pretty far, so I decide to catch it. And we got it. We nickname Roly-Coly Pyro since it will turn into a fire type later on. So now it's off to the Galar Mine, where we get to catch our third rock type Pokemon, Roggenrola. With 1 bug bite, we take it down to half health. I figure that's good enough, and we got it. We nickname him Boulder, and Boulder's been added to the party. Beatty really doesn't stand a chance because he has all psychic type, which our Spidey is also bug type, so we almost one-shot every single one of his Pokemon. So this is definitely one of the easiest battles we encounter. The Grass Gym, gotta get hit by Milo's Wooloo, stop by the Space Chicken, and now it's time for the gym. This really wasn't a fair gym because, again, bug type is strong against grass, so all of these guys had no chance. And luckily in the process, our Pyro evolved. So now Pyro is also fire, which of course is strong against grass as well. So I decide to put him in, and we take out the rest of the trainers before we get into the main battle with Milo. So Milo only has 2 Pokemon. I decide to Dynamax Pyro right away. We use Max Flare on that poor Gossifleur. Didn't stand a chance. And of course, his next Pokemon is Eldegoss, who he Dynamaxes. We use our Max Flare. Takes it down to about half health. So we hit it 1 more time and take it out with no problem. And we've got the first gym badge. So now it's on to Nessa, but of course we gotta face this Team Yell so that we can get that bike. Again, they don't stand any chance against our Spidey. We easily defeat them. We get the Rotom bike, and now it's time to face Hop for the however many time. I think this is 4. Spidey easily takes out that Wooloo in 2 hits. He has a Corvisquire. We take that out in 2 hits as well. And of course he's got Scorbunny, which takes us down to an uncomfortable amount of health, but luckily we hit it twice and we defeat Hop, no problem. Now my thinking was, I knew there was a Dreadnought in the next area, but of course they don't let you move on to the next area until you defeat the gym, so unfortunately we have to go into the gym. I really wasn't sure about my levels at this point, so I wanted to test out where I was kind of at with the trainers before you have to go and face Nessa, and it was okay. We were able to take them out pretty easily, but we were also a couple levels over most of these Pokemon that we were facing, so before I went and faced Nessa, I made sure to level up a whole bunch because I knew this was going to be a really tough gym. We basically couldn't use Pyro because he'd get one-shot by anything, and I know she's got a Dreadnought that is easily going to take us out. So I leveled up our Spidey to level 30, and the first Pokemon she's got is Goldeen. So I decide to use an X Special Defense and a couple X attacks before we get into battling all these Pokemon. Of course, she hits me with the confuse. Not once, but twice. Luckily, we don't get confused on that hit, and we can take out that Goldeen in one shot. So I heal up Spidey one more time. He hits us with the Aqua Jet. And we go in for the attack. Luckily, we snap out of confusion, and we can take it out in one hit. Now, still feeling pretty uncomfortable because this thing is really strong. So I know Boulder has the ability Sturdy, which means he can't be one-shot. It'll take at least 2 hits to take him out. So I send him out. Of course, Nessa Dynamaxes her Dreadnought. That sucker uses Max Geyser against our poor little Boulder. Luckily, with his ability, he holds on for dear life with 1 health. Oh yeah, and he was also holding a berry. I don't know what the heck I was thinking. But I make sure to heal up Spidey so that she is at full health. Unfortunately, Boulder faints. Rip to Boulder. And this is where we get to send out Spidey and Dynamax him. So now this also wasted 2 turns for Dreadnought's Dynamax. So I use Max Guard so that we don't get hit by that 3rd Dynamax attack. And luckily, now we have the advantage. He hits us with a Razor Shell, takes us down to less than half health. We go for Max Rocks Fall, and it only takes it down to half. However, this took away the rain, which means we were now faster, and we could take that bad boy out with the next hit, and by some miracle, we survived. And to add insult to injury, my Boulder evolved, which sucks because we can no longer use him. But we get the water badge, and unfortunately we have to say goodbye to Boulder. So now it's on to Galar Mine number 2, where we face BD one more time, but it is no problem. Our Spidey's so over leveled right now. Takes them all out extremely easily. And now we can catch the few rock type Pokemon that are in here. So the first one we encounter is Binacle. We take it down to about half health, and I decide to use my Great Ball. We catch it, name it Sprout, add it to the party. Next Pokemon we encounter is a Shuckle. We take him down to just about as low as you can. We catch it with 1 Great Ball. Easy claps. Nickname him Shucks, add him to the party. Of course, we gotta face Team Yell one more time with our BFF Hop. We take him down, no problem. Where we now get to catch our Dreadnought. With 1 hit, we take it down to half, so I figured we have some Dust Balls to waste. We can use it, we catch it, and it's just as if Chewy evolved, ran to the cave, and we just caught it back, right? So, luckily when we leave, we also get to catch Sudowoodo. So we kind of waste a bunch of balls here. Like a lot. But with the 4th one, we catch it, name him Branch, and he's added to the party. And this is the first time we have 6 Pokemon all in our party. So before we go and face off in the Fire Gym, we of course have to face off against Marnie. This sucker takes me down to really low health, but we take him out with the next hit. I heal up Chewy. This thing uses Low Kick. Takes it down way, way farther than I thought it would, so we send out Spidey. And luckily he takes him out no problem. Now it's Morpeko versus Spidey. Spidey takes that hit and then takes out Morpeko with 1 shot. Now it's on to the Fire Gym. Now we can't catch any of these, so in order to get past it, we just have to defeat 5 Pokemon, which luckily we do with no problem. So now we face off against Kabu. Starts out with Ninetales. Fortunately, we don't take it out with one hit, but we hit it with that water gun, take it out with that second. He sends out Arcanine, so I decide to Dynamax, since I figure we are going to take out his Scorch with no issue. He goes in with Bite, so I just pray that we don't flinch. Luckily, we don't. We go in for Max Rocks Fall, and Arcanine is taken down, no problem. So his last Pokemon is Scorch, which he of course Dynamaxes. We go in for that Rock Fall. Double super effective, take it out no problem with one shot. And that is the Fire Gym and the Fire Badge. So now it's back to the wild area. And here, I actually didn't mean to run into this thing, but we did, so we don't really have a choice here. I go in for a Water Gun. I honestly thought I took it out. Luckily, I didn't. However, it did get a little sketchy because it is hailing, and I didn't even get any help there on the second time. What even made this sketchier is this thing was hitting me with Rock Blast, and it hit me, of course, 5 times, takes me down to 9 health. I get buffeted with the hail, down to 4. We buffet that thing down with hail. It's next to nothing, so this is really our only shot. And by some miracle, we catch it. Name her Spike, and we decide to add her to the party, put Shuckle in the daycare, and now it's off to Hammerlock. We chat with Sonia per usual, and it's on to Route 6. After taking out Team Yell no problem, I decide to go and level up some of my Pokemon, and in the process, Pyro evolves. I decide this is a good time to take on the Onix, because we should be strong enough to take this thing. So we take it down pretty far, and I go in for a couple of Pokeballs, but I really didn't have any luck. So he uses Curse a bunch, so I figure he can take some hits, and he can't, and I knock him out. So we do not get to catch Onix. But luckily, as we keep on training, we make sure and evolve Spidey into Crustle. So now we've got a level 46 Pyro and a level 41 Spidey, along with the rest of our Pokemon. So now, just to see how strong we are, we take out this Clefable with one shot. So I'm feeling okay going into what is again another very challenging gym for our rock type, because B has all fighting type Pokemon, which are all super effective against ours. Of course, before we get into that gym, Hop wants to battle us. He starts out with his Cramorant, which uses Dive. Even though we are extremely over leveled, that thing still takes us down to really low health, but we take it out. Take out the Silly Cobra. Take out his Reboot. And take out his Toxel. So now it's on to the gym. So now it's on to B. Starts out with Hitmontop, and we use Pyro. So Pyro is able to hit him one time. Luckily, they go in with the counter, so we don't take any damage. We go in with our second Incinerate, and they use Revenge, which does a decent amount of damage. We take him out on the third hit, and that is it for Hitmontop. Next Pokemon is Pangoro. After a little heal, we go for Incinerate, which takes him down to about half health. They go in for the workup, boosting their attack and special attack. Going for Heat Crash, hoping for the best, hoping we can take it out. We can't, and it decides to go in for Circle Throw, which takes us down pretty far, and it means it's going to drag out another random Pokemon, which is Spike. I take this opportunity to heal Pyro. It hits us with the Circle Throw. I really thought we were dead there. Luckily we weren't, and it brings out Sprout. I pray for the best, hope for a crit. I don't get it. It goes for the Circle Throw, and Sprout dies. Rip Sprout. That's our second loss. So Pyro with full health, we send him back out and take him out on the next hit. Next is Surfetched. Decide this is a good time to Dynamax. Going for Max Flare. I was hoping to take it out in one shot. It literally has next to no health, so we take it out with the second hit. Unfortunately, that wastes one of our Dynamax turns. So it goes in for Machamp. Obviously, she Gigantamaxes it. Goes in for that Max Knuckle, and we take that like a champ. So we go in for Max Flare. With the help of the sun, we take it down to over half health. I decide I'm just going to survive these next couple Dynamax turns by healing up. Luckily on the third time it goes in for Max Darkness, which still does decent amount of damage, but not really. And luckily we can take it out with the next 2 hits. The only reason that wasn't worse is because we decided to level our Pokemon up really high. And that is the 4th gym where we get that fighting badge. And now we have to say goodbye to Sprout. So young, so underleveled. Before we can move on, we have to battle Beatty one more time. Luckily our Crustle, aka Spidey, is way overleveled, and so we take out all his Pokemon in one shot. Which means we can move on. Before we move on to Glimwood we make sure and grab our Shucks, and it's off to the Fairy Gym. Made sure to teach our Pyro Heavy Slam, which is a Steel type move, so it'll be super effective against all the Fairy types that we encounter. Opal starts out with her Weezing, which of course it poisons us before we go in for our Heavy Slam, and we can take that bad boy out in one hit. Next is Togekiss, which we again take out with one shot. She's got Mawile, which we take out with our Fire type move. Her last Pokemon is Alchemy, so we decide to Dynamax, hit it with the Steel Spike, takes it down to about half health, so we can take it out on the next hit. And that is the Fairy Gym. Pretty easy since our Pyro is pretty overleveled. So now it's back to Hammerlock, so we can move on to Route 7, where we again take on Hop. He's got a brand new team when we face him here. So instead of starting out with his Wooloo, he sends out Trevenant. Take it out with a couple hits from our Pyro. Next is Boltund, which we use our Heat Crash. Take that out with one hit. Snorlax kind of took forever because it kept healing up and using a bunch of moves that raise its defense and special defense. So it took like a bajillion hits. But after like 10 minutes, we finally take it out. He then decides to go in for Heatmore, which we have a Rock type move to take it out with one shot. And then Cinderace, which we take out in one hit with, well, a couple hits with our Ancient Power. And that is our battle with Hop. So now we can move on to Route 8, where we can find our Solrock, which is our Psychic and Rock type. Just to make sure I don't knock it out, I go in for a couple headbutts, use Ancient Power, and go in for an Ultra Ball. Luckily it was enough to just have to use one Ultra Ball. Name it Sunshine, and we add it to the party. No, none of the trainers really gave us any issues except these guys, because they were ones I was really worried about since they both have ground type and fighting type Pokemon. You can see here this thing goes in for Dig. Even though we're level 51, it still takes us down to over half health. Luckily we've got Chewy, which takes that out with one hit. And that was the bulk of our problems, so luckily we survive and take out their final Pokemon. And now we go on to the next gym, which is Gordy. Gordy I was a little bit worried about because he starts out with this Barbaracle. I was hoping to take this out with 2 hits because I knew he was going to go in for a Shell Smash, which raises his speed and his attack and special attack. So he goes in for Razor Shell and almost knocks us out. Luckily we hit him with a Rock Tomb. Since his defense is lowered, we were able to take that out. And now with Chewy, since he's water, he should be strong against all the rest of these Pokemon, so he takes out Shuckle with one hit. Takes out Stonejourner with one hit. We make sure and Dynamax that next turn. Since his last Pokemon, he Dynamaxes or Gigantamaxes. Luckily it's Fire and Rock, so we use our Water move and we take it out in one shot. And that is the Rock Gym. After a brief visit in the restaurant where we encounter Sonia, we have another battle with Hop. Sends out Double, and we go in for Spidey. Luckily, Spidey takes that out with basically one hit. Takes out his Pincurchin with 2 hits. Goes in for the Snorlax. I make sure and not allow it to raise its defense like last time. So we take it out in 3 hits here after going in for 2 X Scissors and 1 Rock Slide. Next is Cinderace. So we make sure and go in for Rock Slide. I was hoping to take it out, but it still survives with just a sliver of health. I thought we might have been dead there, especially with the hail. Luckily we survived. I make sure and switch out to Chewy so that we can survive that next hit, just in case we missed. And we take it out, and then we take out the Corviknight with just a couple of hits and the help of the hail. And that is our battle with Hop. Next, it's off to face Team Yell again before we can get our upgraded bike. They do have Pangoro, which was made it a little bit tougher, but it wasn't too bad. Allowed us to get the Rotom bike, and it was on to as we battle the trainers. It's enough so that our Spike evolves from Rhyhorn into Rhydon. And now it's off to the Dark Gym, where first we got to face off against Marnie for the second time. She starts out the battle with a Liepard, and we've got our Spidey. Luckily we take that out no problem in one shot, with the help of a crit. Next she's got Scrafty, which we take out with a couple hits. And then she's got Toxicroak, which we take out in 2 hits as well. And then more Pico, which can't even survive more than 1 hit. Pretty easy battle. So now we move on to our brother Piers. And here I am again going to try and rely on Spidey. We learned Shell Smash, so I decide to go in for that first, just to see if we can improve our chances of knocking these guys out with 1 hit. Takes 2 hits for Scrafty. Next he goes in for Malamar, which we take out in 1 shot. Next he goes in for Obstagoon, which unfortunately takes the first hit, so it'll take a second hit to take him out. Where he now will send out his final Pokemon, Skuntank. Unfortunately again, survives on a sliver of health. They go in for Toxic, which will take us down to about half health. They go in for Sucker Punch, which takes us down to red health. We do take it out with the next hit, but what I wasn't planning on was its ability Aftermath, which of course takes out our Spidey. So while we are victorious, we unfortunately did lose another Pokemon. So after we get the Dark Badge, we have to go in and release our poor dead Pokemon. And now we get to go into the last gym with Rayhan. This is the only gym where it'll be a double battle. And most of his Pokemon are ground or dragon type. So we decide to use Chewy and Solrock. We take out his first Pokemon, no problem. Take down his Flygon to about half health with our Solrock. Goes in for Sandaconda. I had to take out the Flygon since it kept reducing our attack. And we make sure and take that thing out first. We hit it with the Psychic, and he sends out Duraludon. So I decide to make sure we don't lose our Solrock, and we send in Shucks. Knowing he's going to Gigantamax, I make sure in Dynamax our Dreadnought, so that he then Gigantamaxes his Duraludon. I just want to make sure and take out the Sandaconda, so that's not an issue. So we make sure and take that out. And the Duraludon goes for Max Knuckle on our Chewy, which we survive pretty easily. We go in for Max Geyser, and it doesn't do as much as I hope it was going to do. So it then, of course, goes in for Steel Spike on Shucks, takes it out, and Shucks dies. So I go in for Pyro. And I go in for Max Darkness to see if that'll do any difference of health. Does about the same as our water type move does. He goes in for Max Knuckle again. We take that pretty easily. Unfortunately, his attack is also increasing. I go in for Incinerate and a Jaw-Lock. Unfortunately, it doesn't take it out. He goes in for Stone Edge. Luckily, we are leveled up, so we take that hit and we hit him with the Incinerate and take out the Duraludon. And with that defeat, we end up getting the final badge that we need to complete that gym challenge. So now it's on to Route 10, where we are able to catch our final rock type Pokemon available, which is Stonjourner. It probably takes us about 40 minutes because it really only has a 2% chance to spawn. So you run into a bunch of Abomasnows and even a couple of Snoms. But finally, we do find our Stonjourner. Now, since it's hailing and I don't want to take it out, I just decide to take every turn to throw a Pokeball and see if we can catch this thing. First one fails. Second one fails. And the third one, you guessed it, also fails. But with the final one, we are able to catch it. We name her Stomp and add her to the party. So now it's off to Winden Stadium, where we get to complete our journey. Our first battle is with Marnie. We take out her Liepard, no problem. And we take out the Scrafty, no problem. One thing I wasn't planning on was Morpeko having Bullet Seed, which is double super effective against our Dreadnought. Luckily, it only hits us 3 times. If it had hit us more, we probably would have died. But luckily, we take the hits and we take it out with the next hit. And so we are able to switch out to Spike, which is now our Rhydon. We go in for Earthquake to take out the Toxicroak. And she sends in her final Pokemon, which she, of course, Gigantamaxes. So we make sure in Dynamax our Spike. They go in for their G-Max move, which we take pretty easily. We go in for Max Knuckle. They go in for Max Starfall. And we go in for Knuckle again, just so that we're raising our attack. After we both heal, we are both done being large. So we go in for 1 Earthquake with the help of the increased attack. We take it out with 1 hit, and that is the battle with Marnie. Our next battle is with Hop. Although we've had many battles with Hop, this is the final one. He, of course, starts out with his Double, and I decide to start out with Chewy. Chewy, luckily, is able to take out the Double with 1 hit. He then sends out Snorlax, which we take out in a couple hits. Then goes in for Pincurchin, which we take out with 1 super effective hit. And then after a couple hits to the Corviknight, we're able to take out that with no issue. His last Pokemon is Cinderace, which he Dynamaxes, so we have make sure in Dynamax our Chewy. does go in for Max Knuckle, which is going to be super effective. Luckily, we take it without too many problems. We go in for Max Geyser, and we take it out in one single fell swoop. And poor Hop is defeated. Now, of course, the chairman's causing issues, so we gotta go deal with him first. Of course, we run into his assistant, Oleana. Now, knowing she is gonna have Pokemon weak to Steel, I go in for Pyro. Take out her Frostlass with no issue. Fortunately, she then goes in for her Milotic. We've got to switch out to our Chewy, which is basically the only Pokemon that can take any water type moves. And we go in for a couple of hits with high horsepower. By some miracle, it hangs on with a sliver of health, but we take it out in 4 hits. And along the way, we don't take too much damage. Now next she sends in Serena, so we've got to switch back to our Pyro since it's a grass type. Serena gave us a lot of issues. This battle probably took me like 10 minutes because she used Attract, so I had to just use a bunch of heals. Luckily we survive and we are able to take her out with our Pyro. Because Pyro is really low, I decided to switch out back to Chewy. And we go in for our water type move, Liquidation, which we can take out her Salazzle with 1 shot. The last Pokemon is Garbodor, which we know she's going to Gigantamax, so I want to make sure and put a Pokemon that can take that hit, so we go in for Spike. She of course Gigantamaxes. We take the first hit that she throws at us. Fortunately, it is super effective. Takes us down to about half health. We're able to Dynamax on our next move. She again goes in for the ground type move. We are able to survive. We go in for our ground type move, which is also super effective. And we are able to take it out in 1 shot. Crazy Oleana is defeated. So after a quick chat with Leon and the chairman, we are back down to the battlefield, where BD decides he is going to battle us. But luckily we have our Pyro, which is going to be super effective against all of his Pokemon. So we take out his Mawile, 1 shot. He goes in for Gardevoir, which we take out easily with our Steel type move. Then goes in for Rapidash, which does survive 1 hit, but after a second, we take that out. Since he's down to his final Pokemon, we Dynamax our Pyro, and he Gigantamaxes his Pokemon. Going for our Max Steel Spike, which takes it down to half health, so after a second hit, we are able to take it out. And we survive another battle. So now it's on to our second battle with Nessa, which luckily we have our Chewy now, which will make this battle a lot easier than the first one. Not knowing it was Nessa and kind of just forgetting, I started out with Colossal. So we're going for a Rock Slide on the Glossopod. Because it has emergency exit, it's switching to Barraskewda, so we definitely have to switch into Chewy at this point. Does go in for a super effective move, but after 2 hits, or 1 hit with Rock Slide, we are able to take it out. She then goes in for Seeking, which after 2 hits, we are able to take that out. And she sends back out her Glossopod, which we go in for our Rock Slide again, and this is enough to take that out this time. Since she's down to her final 2 Pokemon, I decide to Dynamax at this point. we go in for our Max Rocks Fall so that we can take out the Pelipper. We take that out obviously with no problem, but she then uses her last Pokemon, which is a Gigantamax Dreadnought. I was a little bit worried. Luckily we do have a ground type move, so we go in for that first play. Almost takes it out with the first hit. Luckily we survive the hit that it takes on us, and we take it out with the next hit, and we can take out Nessa for the final time. Of course, we have our second battle with B, which is also going to be a little bit challenging. So she's going to start out with Hawlucha. Now remembering and looking, seeing that she was going to be our next battle, I make sure to start out with Solrock, and we take precautions, and I go in for a bunch of Cosmic Powers. This thing almost takes me out because it does have a critical hit. After raising our defense a whole bunch, I decide it's time to go on the offensive, so we take out her Hawlucha and her Sirfetch'd. She then goes in for Phalanx, which we are able to take out with the first hit. And then she goes in for Grapplocked, which we take out in 2 hits. Since she's down to her final Pokemon, I make sure and Dynamax our Solrock. She Gigantamaxes her Machamp. We go in for Max Mindstorm. Takes it down to about half health. We are able to survive that first hit it gives us, so we take it out in the second hit, and we take out B. The last battle before the championship is going to be with Rayhan. Rayhan starts out with Tarkle, and I decide to start out with our Spike. Spike takes Torkoal out with one shot with its Earthquake. Then goes in for Goodra, which we luckily we don't miss, and we get a crit with Stone Edge, so we're able to take that out. Then goes in for Flygon, which I forgot it can't be hit by ground moves, so I go in for Earthquake, and it hits me with that. And we are able to take out that Flygon. Its next Pokemon is Turtonator, which luckily we can take out no problem with our Earthquake. And his final Pokemon, of course, is Duraludon, which he decides to Gigantamax. So we make sure and Dynamax our Rhydon. He goes in for Max Steel Spike, which does take us down to uncomfortable health. We go in for, and of course, its defense raises. We go in for our Max Quake. So after we heal on our next turn, we get hit with a Steel Spike. We are able to survive, and we go in for a Max Quake. And we are able to finish it off. And that is our final battle with Rayhan. Of course, Chairman Rose is causing issues, so we have to go back to the Slumbering Weld, pick up our Sword and Shield, head back to Hammerlock, drop down into the Energy Plant, and take on Chairman Rose himself. He does have all Steel-type Pokemon, so I make sure and start out with our Pyro. We take out his first Pokemon, no problem, and his second, and his third, and his fourth. His final Pokemon, he is going to Gigantamax, so I make sure and Dynamax our Pyro. He throws out his Gigantamax Copperajah. We go in for a Max Flare, almost take it out with one hit. It does have a ground type move, which I wasn't expecting. Almost kills us. Luckily we survive, and we take it out on the next hit. And the chairman's impressed, and we have defeated him. So now it's on to the battle with Eternatus. After a one-on-one battle with him, we take it out with Pyro. Of course, takes its crazy form, so we have to summon Zacian and Zamazenta. Really, due to no part on my own, we take out the Eternatus. Doesn't really give us an option to not catch it, so we catch it and release it. And now it's on to our very final battle. Championship battle with Leon. His first Pokemon is Aegislash, so we go in for Soul Rock. My plan was to go in for Cosmic Power. That was kind of a crappy plan, so I decided to switch out to Pyro. We take one hit with Shadow Ball. Does take us down to about half health. I was hoping to kill this with one hit. Didn't work. So after a couple turns, we go in for the Burn Up so that we can take that out finally. And we have not lost any Pokemon. Now this one I knew was going to be an issue because he does have Earthquake. So I switched out to Sunshine, which knows Levitate, so it's not affected by ground type moves. So we were able to avoid that first attack, and I go in for that, my final strategy again, to use Cosmic Power. It does go in for Iron Tail, and of course it lowers our defense. So plan kind of blown up, I decide to kind of sacrifice Branch. I make sure and heal up our Sunshine. He takes out Branch. So now that we lost Branch, the plan is to go in with Sunshine and use the same strategy as before and hope that it doesn't lower our special defense. Unfortunately, it hits us with a crit, and it of course is super effective and it takes us out. So I decide to go in for our Spike, which I figured could take at least one Earthquake or one Iron Tail. Luckily it misses its Iron Tail attack. We go in for Earthquake and we are able to take it out with one hit. And by no small coincidence, we learn Mega Horn just as it sends out its Rillaboom. It misses its first attack. We luckily don't miss our attack. It does survive the first hit. It goes in for Endeavor on the next turn. Takes us down to 40 health, and we are able to take Rillaboom out on the second turn. Next Pokemon is Rhyperior. I decide to heal up. It hits us with the Earthquake. Takes us down to 9 health. So I decide to switch out to Stomp. Again, as a sacrifice, he dies, so we go in for Chewy. Luckily Chewy is water type, so it takes it out with one hit with its Liquidation. He goes in for Dragapult, and of course this Dragapult knows Thunderbolt. So the plan here was really just to cycle between Chewy, Spike, and Pyro, so that it ran out of attacks with its Shadow Ball. After it runs out of its Shadow Ball attacks, I decide to go in for a couple Rock Slides with our Pyro. Unfortunately, it does take our Pyro out with a sliver of health, so we go in for our Spike. It goes in for Dragon Breath, which takes us down to 50 health with the help of a crit. But luckily we don't miss our attack with Stone Edge, so we can take it out with Stone Edge hit. Its final Pokemon is Charizard, which we know he's going to Gigantamax. I figure I'm going to use a full restore on Spike to see if we can survive these couple of Gigantamax moves. Wasn't planning on it knowing a grass type move, so unfortunately it takes Spike out, no problem with one hit. So our final hope is Chewy. I was thinking this would be easier than it was, because Chewy, was knowing he has a rock type move, would be pretty effective against his Charizard. So of course I make sure and Dynamax. And after we Dynamax, Chewy's health goes up to a whopping 416 health. His Charizard is faster, and it goes in for Max Overgrowth again. And he takes us down all the way to 8 health. Luckily, we have Max Rockfall, which is double super effective, and we can take out the Charizard with one hit. And by some miracle, we survived. I didn't think we were actually going to win that final battle. I mean, that's about as close as you can possibly get, right? 8 health on our final Pokemon. And so that, you guys, finishes my experience with my Pokemon Rock-Locke. If you guys enjoy this video, I know it was a longer one, make sure and leave it a like. If you guys are new here to the channel, subscribe, comment down below if you guys want to see another one of these challenge videos. Thank you so much for watching, and as always, I will see you guys in the next one. Peace.